Good morning. Welcome to the UU Church of the South Hills, also known as Sunnyhill. We're delighted that you could join us for this service this morning. Our mission here at Sunnyhill is to create a more just and compassionate community within and beyond our walls. My name is Krista Stanley, and I serve as a worship associate for this congregation. If you're a newcomer or a visitor to our congregation, please go to sunnyhill.org and click on the button that says New to Sunnyhill to receive more information about our congregation and to receive our weekly email newsletter. If you're joining us online today, please say hello or good morning in the comments on Facebook or YouTube. We'd like to hear from you and extend a welcome to you as well. A gentle reminder for those of you here with us in person, please be sure to silence your cell phones and other electronic devices so that we can enjoy our time together uninterrupted by buzzing or ringing. We now have a brief Sunnyhill board moment from our board member, Chris Fleischer.
Hi, everybody. In case you don't know me or you're new to Sunnyhill, my name is Chris Fleischer, and I'm a member of the Sunnyhill Board of Trustees. Sometimes it's easy to forget that Sunnyhill does, in fact, have a board that meets monthly to make decisions about the church, and we just felt like it was we should be a bit more proactive in letting you know what we've been up to. We've had lots of individual discussions with you, but felt that addressing the whole church from time to time would be helpful as well. So you'll be hearing from us more often. I've been on the board since 2021, serving pretty much all that time as liaison to the Facilities Committee. And what that means is basically keeping abreast of all the building issues, large and small, whether it's water leaks in the Rainbow Room or safe protocols post-COVID. And today, I wanted to raise a pretty big issue that you'll be hearing more about in the coming months. We are proposing to launch a capital campaign, which, for those who aren't familiar, is basically a big fundraising drive. One of the main goals of this campaign is to pay down debt taken on to construct this sanctuary, but it also will address significant needs for improving the rest of the facility. This includes adding more space for religious education and also fixing structural issues in the older historic parts of the property. Now, longtime Sunnyhillers might be thinking, didn't we just do this? And they would be correct, but that was 12 years ago, believe it or not. Most nonprofits have a capital campaign every 10 to 15 years. We're still working out the details and understand that you're going to have a lot of questions. So we're having an informational session about the capital campaign next Sunday between services at 10 a.m., where we'll provide more details. For now, I just wanted to make you aware of it and let you know that the board will do its very best to share information as we have it. Feel free to approach me or any other board member if you want to talk, and thanks for your time.
Today's service is titled Faith, Doubt, and Mustard Seed. The Gospel of Mark's parable of the mustard seed challenges its readers to think about such issues as faith, doubt, and the power of community. What does this parable have to say about our own lives and our own era? Our opening words were written by Heidi Cottam. Let us be a faith that gathers, reaching for one another, through the walls of hate others build, through the cages of ignorance and arrogance, and through the fear that burns city streets. Let us be a faith that sees a vision of a better world, more compassionate, more just, more holy, and with more love. There is a faith that binds up the broken, cauterizes battle wounds with the balm of peace, sings longer and louder than the trumpets of war. Let us be that faith too. Let us be the ones who do not tread lightly in this world, but light it up with our love, who hold up the mirror of worth and dignity, who are the sanctuary others seek. But first, let us be a faith that worships together, here, this morning, in this space, at this moment. Let us be a faith. Please join me in saying the words to light our chalice. We ignite this flame, symbol of our faith, to beckon us into community, warm our hearts with love, and give us a light to follow as we carry our faith into action.
Good morning. Top of the morning to you. Please rise and body your spirit to join in singing our opening hymn, Gather the Spirit.
Trials in this light appear all the same. Gather in peace, gather in thanks, gather in sympathy now and then. Gather in hope, compassion and strength. Gather to celebrate once again. Gather the spirit of heart and mind. Seeds for the sowing are laid in store. Nurtured in love and conscience refined, with body and spirit united once more. Gather in peace, gather in thanks, gather in sympathy now and then. Gather in hope, compassion and strength. Gather to celebrate once again. Gather the spirit growing in all, drawn by the moon and fed by the sun. Winter to spring and summer to fall, the chorus of life resounding as one. Gather in peace, gather in thanks, gather in sympathy now and then. Gather in hope, compassion and strength. Gather to celebrate once again.
Thank you. Please be seated.
Good morning, friends. If there are any kiddos present that want to come up for our time for all ages, come on down. Good morning, friends. Last week, we learned a little bit about a man who lived a long, long time ago named Jesus. Here's another one of his parables or stories. Once upon a time, Jesus was teaching a group of people. He asked them to think of a lamp. Can anybody tell me what we use a lamp for? What's a lamp for? Lights, that's right. We usually use it to light up a room, right? Yeah. Jesus said, you don't light a lamp to put it under a bed or bowl, right? Friends, what do you think? Do we turn on a lamp and then put it under the bed? No, not usually, right? That'd be strange. And that's what Jesus was explaining, that you put a light on a table or a stand so that everyone can see the light and not stumble or fall in the dark. So what does this story mean? Well, practically, it's probably not a safe idea to put a lamp under a bed, but that's not really the point here. Jesus was not just talking about actual lamps. He was talking about something good and important, like kindness or love, that we should not hide or just keep to ourselves. A lamp or a candle or a chalice can bring light into a room, but only if it isn't hidden away. Kindness and love can also bring light to the room in the same way. So, let's share that light and all the good things with the world. So let's do it. Let's share our light, my friends. But first, we need to head to our RE classes. Let's head downstairs.
As you go, may joy surround you. As you go, go in peace. Know our love is with you always. As you go, as you go, as you go, may joy surround you. As you go, go in peace. Know our love is with you always. As you go, as you go.
At this spot in our first service, we had the choir singing, but they're going to be singing at the second service next week. So I please hope that you'll be here next week to hear the choir pieces, which were very nice. So instead, I'm going to talk a little bit right now to elaborate on what Chris Fleischer had mentioned with the proposed capital campaign and the meeting that we're having between the services next Sunday. So that's at 10 a.m. next Sunday. Really encourage everyone who can be here to be here for that. We're going to be sharing some information about the proposed capital campaign and open things up for questions and answers. As Chris mentioned, it was 12 years ago that the last capital campaign started. It took place from 2012 to 2015. I arrived here in 2014, so it was at the tail end of that process. And my first couple of years here were about hiring an architect and a builder and figuring out all of the finances. And then in summer of 2016, we closed this building down for about 14 months while the construction project took place. And as a result of that project, we have this stunning sanctuary in which it's an absolute pleasure to lead services and to be a part of services, and a wing of offices and a couple of classrooms. Now, what a lot of people don't know is that we actually lost religious education classroom space as a result of that campaign. We tore down the existing wing on this side, which had 2 stories of small rooms. So our net classroom and meeting space is less now than it was before that project. And at the end of that capital campaign, there was a promise made that there would be a part 2 of the capital campaign at some point to be determined, in which we would address the need for more meeting and community space. And I think some people might have hoped that that part 2 would come much later down the road, but because of our growth, which is a great thing, we really need to address that sooner rather than later. The other thing to keep in mind that you might not know is that we were a congregation of around 170 people at the time of the last capital campaign. Our membership now is 345 people. Nearly 2/3 of our members have joined since the end of the last capital campaign. So most of you never had the opportunity to give. And we want to share that opportunity with everyone. Also, some of the people who have given before, I happen to know the stock market's been doing pretty well, and it may be a time to think about making another gift to this congregation. At any rate, these are some of the things we're going to be talking about next week. I do hope that you will come for that session and be prepared to vote on April 14th at our congregational meeting on whether to go forward with the capital campaign or not, as well as electing our officers for the coming year. So now I will move into our joys and sorrows. This is the time in our service each week when we share joys and sorrows that have been submitted by members of the congregation. After each joy or sorrow that I share, please respond by saying, "We hold you in our heart." I have two joys that were regarding last night's Coming of Age coffee house. One from the Coming of Age class itself. Thank you to everyone who performed and enjoyed the coffee house last night. It was so much fun. And they were also selling some of the leftover baked goods, which you might have gotten in between services today. All the proceeds from the event last night will go to a joint Coming of Age youth group retreat, which will be taking place this spring. And a related joy came from John Armstrong, who said, "What a joy it was to arrive this morning to find the sanctuary so clean and the chairs perfectly aligned. Kudos to the teens and those who motivated them." John is our chief building person and chair straightener. To everyone who had anything to do with last night's coffee house, we hold you in our hearts. A joy from Jennifer Hutchinson, who says, "I passed an insurance exam for work, finally, that I was enrolled in since before COVID." To Jennifer, we hold you in our hearts. We have a sorrow from Rebecca Weaver. Rebecca says, "My mother Connie is in Philadelphia this week for treatment of ocular melanoma, eye cancer. Her prognosis is good, but she and my dad will be in Philly until Tuesday for this first round of treatment. Additionally, my older sister Teresa is in the hospital with an infected gallbladder and pancreatitis. This week, the doctors will remove her gallbladder. To Rebecca and her family, we hold you in our hearts." Finally, we have a joy from Vijay Chandak. Vijay says that he will celebrate his 91st birthday on March 23rd. To Vijay, we hold you in our hearts. Now, we don't usually do this for birthdays, but when someone turns 90 or older, I think it might be good to sing. So why don't we do a little happy birthday to Vijay, one of our nearly founding members who is right there. Can you give a little wave, Vijay? Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Vijay. Happy birthday to you. As we sing our musical meditation, we invite anyone who feels moved to do so to come forward, light a candle, place it in the sand, and then return to your seat.
Spirit, by the Spirit, with the Spirit giving power, I will find true harmony. Seek the essence, hold the essence, let the essence carry me. Let me flower, help me flower, watch me flower, carry me. In the Spirit, by the Spirit, with the Spirit giving power, I will find true harmony.
Please join me in the spirit of meditation or prayer. Let us pause for a moment simply to be here, to practice being fully present in this place, in this time, with the others who are here, aware of what's going on around us, what's going on within us, the sounds, the sensations, the feelings of now. In our growing awareness of this moment, each breath can bring us closer to what is, closer to the reality of our existence without the filters of two busy minds, with only the certainty of one moment as it gives way to the next. We pause for a moment of silence as we consider those things we celebrate and those things we mourn, all of which we hold in the stillness of now and in the presence of this loving community. May we show up for ourselves and for each other time and again, each time we gather and when we are apart. May we serve as witnesses to the struggles as well as the triumphs, to the longings as well as the deep feelings of contentment. May we come back to this place of presence, and may it bring us closer to one another and closer to the spirit of love in which we live and move and have our being. Amen. Rini was out last week, and we didn't have those nice little transitions between the service elements, and it just felt like there was something missing. And I finally figured out there is something missing. And I often wish that I had those moments in my everyday life as I turn from one thing to the other, just something to sort of bring it all down. Anyway, here we are, and I'd like to start my sermon today by sharing with you a poem written by Don Markova that's titled, "I Will Not Die an Unlived Life." I will not die an unlived life. I will not live in fear of falling or catching fire. I choose to inhabit my days, to allow my living to open me, to make me less afraid, more accessible, to loosen my heart until it becomes a wing, a torch, a promise. I choose to risk my significance, to live so that that which came to me as seed goes to the next as blossom, and that which came to me as blossom goes on as fruit. As I mentioned in my sermon last week, Jesus often spoke in parables, much to the frustration and sometimes consternation of those around him, who often seemed to be yearning for easy answers. But Jesus insisted on pointing beyond just the easy answers. In fact, he was intent on challenging anyone who would listen to him to go deeper in their thinking and in their understanding, not just to find one answer to a difficult question, but to wrestle with the underlying issues, eventually grasping the truth that easy answers are almost never enough. Parables existed in Jewish teachings long before the time of Jesus. There are, for example, parables in the book of Judges, in 2 Samuel, and elsewhere in the Hebrew Scriptures. When parables appear in the Bible, they always point toward complexity and toward a way of understanding that is neither simple nor easy. Most of the parables of Jesus have to do with something he often called the kingdom of heaven. In fact, most of his parables begin with a simile, the kingdom of heaven is like. Next week, I'll be exploring more deeply this idea of the kingdom of heaven, both what it might have meant for Jesus and what it might mean for us. But now suffice it to say that the kingdom of heaven, as thought of by Jesus, is something in which we can participate now, something that we can co-create at any time and any place if we are open to transformation and willing and able to live in a different way. In the 4th chapter of Mark, there are several parables told in rapid succession about the sowing of seeds. The shortest of these seed parables, just 2 verses long, as it's told in Mark, is a parable of the mustard seed, which reads as follows. Again he said, "What shall we say the kingdom of heaven is like? Or what parable shall we use to describe it? It is like a mustard seed, which is the smallest of all seeds on earth. Yet, when planted, it grows and becomes the largest of all garden plants, with such big branches that the birds can perch in its shade." This same parable appears in slightly different forms in the Gospels of Matthew and Luke, who elaborate and put their own spin on this story, which they likely borrowed or maybe stole from Mark. The parable of the mustard seed also appears in the Gospel of Thomas, a non-canonical gospel comprised entirely of the sayings of Jesus, just one after the other, which may have been one of the sources for Mark's gospel. Thomas's version of the same parable reads as follows. The disciples said to Jesus, "Tell us what the kingdom of heaven is like." He said to them, "It is like a grain of mustard seed, the smallest of all seeds, but when it falls on tilled ground, it puts forth a great branch and becomes shelter for the birds of heaven." Interpreters of the gospel parables have often tried to turn them into allegories, but parables are different from allegories. In an allegory, each element of the story might be thought of as standing for a particular concept, person, idea, or thing. John Bunyan's Pilgrim's Progress is an example of an allegory, and a little bit of a heavy-handed allegory at that, in which characters have such names as Christian, Mr. Worldly Wise Man, Hopeful, Faithful, Ignorance, Lord Hategood, and so on. It's not particularly subtle, but it does provide a high degree of clarity about what each character in the story represents. Parables resist such easy interpretation. But many readers of this particular parable of the mustard seed have tried to turn it into an allegory, assuming that the mustard seed represents faith, or it represents the church, or it represents the gospel message. All of these things are, of course, possible, but they are not the only meanings. Amy Jill Levine, whose book on the Gospel of Mark is the inspiration for this sermon series, advises us to start with the literal sense of the parable. Examine what the different elements that are present in the story mean to us, and then see what stands out as being strange or unusual. So, as a jumping off point, what do we know of mustard and mustard seeds? We know that mustard seeds are tiny, perhaps not actually the smallest of all seeds, but still very small. We know that mustard has been used as a spice for cooking and as a condiment for thousands of years. We know that mustard has also been used medicinally in the form of poultices or powders to treat a wide variety of ailments. We know that certain species of mustard are invasive plants that can choke and kill native species that are in their way. We know that mustard plants are bright and colorful, and in some cases, certain species of mustard are used as decorative elements in gardens. And we know that mustard is one of the oldest known species of plants to have been domesticated as early as 3000 BCE. These are all aspects of mustard plants that we might consider as we read this parable. We might also consider that planting a mustard seed and as a result creating, as the parable says, a nesting place for birds might not be an entirely desirable outcome. Farmers and gardeners are usually trying to scare birds away rather than to invite them into their farms and gardens where they can, in fact, do a lot of damage. So considering all of these facts and factors, what does it mean that the kingdom of heaven is like a mustard seed? Given the complexity of what the image or idea of mustard might invoke, spice, medicine, diminutiveness, wildness, domestication, color, and so on, it might be important to consider that a single mustard seed contains a plethora of possibilities. All seeds, of course, can be seen to represent possibility, and all seeds are part of the great cycle of life, from seed to plant to flower to fruit, back to seed again. But the mustard seed contains so many possibilities that there is perhaps some uncertainty and risk involved in sowing the seed. It might be used to cook, to heal, to decorate, to provide a home for the birds, whether they are desired or not. Or it might even, in some cases, run wild and take over an entire garden. So in my reading of this parable, the kingdom of heaven is something that contains multiple possibilities. How we perceive and act on these possibilities, or fail to act, determines what the outcome of having planted this seed will be. We are all capable of planting seeds of possibility, but there is, as I said, some amount of risk and uncertainty in the act of planting these seeds. It is the choice to plant these seeds despite the inherent risk and uncertainty, despite the seeming chaos and decay that surround us, despite our inability to know how everything will turn out, is a sacred and important act. Planting seeds in such circumstances certainly involves both faith and doubt. We may or may not have faith that the seeds we plant will make some kind of positive difference in the world. And we almost certainly will have doubts that anything we can do as individuals will do much to help. As I've gone on talking about this parable and the various meanings and images that it might evoke, it may feel like I've made the meaning of this story of the mustard seed even more complex and difficult to understand than it was to begin with. If it seems that way, it's because that is what I have done or attempted to do. Parables are supposed to be challenging. They're supposed to make us a little less certain and make us think and explore a little bit more. But one thing I do want to make clear is that in order to be participants in something like the kingdom of heaven, or what others have called the beloved community, we must be sowers of seeds. And we must, in fact, cast ourselves like seeds, which is the subject of this poem by Miguel de Unamuno, titled "Throw Yourself Like Seed." Shake off this sadness and recover your spirit. Sluggish, you will never see the wheel of fate that brushes your heel as it turns going by. The one who wants to live is the one in whom life is abundant. Now you are only giving food to that final pain which is slowly winding you in the nets of death. But to live is to work, and the only thing which lasts is the work. Start there, turn to the work. Throw yourself like seed as you walk and into your own field. Don't turn your face, for that would be to turn it to death. And do not let the past weigh down your motion. Leave what's alive in the furrow, what's dead in yourself. For life does not move in the same way as a group of clouds. From your work, you will be able one day to gather yourself. There's a lot of imagery in that poem. We're encouraged to shake off our sadness and recover our spirit, to live from a place of abundance, to throw ourselves like seed, not weighed down by our past, but doing the work of the present, leaving in the furrowed ground of our being something that may one day grow into a bountiful harvest of ourselves. This is what I would call mustard seed living. It is living in a way that invokes all those possibilities contained in the parable of the mustard seed: the color, the spiciness, the medicine for the soul, the growth from tiny to incredibly big, big enough to become a home for others, even the birds of the heavens. And when you have a whole community of people living in this way, engaging in this work of mustard seed living, imagine what might be accomplished, what love and energy might be generated, what kind of justice and compassion might be brought into the world as a result. And it begins with the idea of a tiny seed full of possibility that might be transformed into action. Returning to the Don Markova poem I quoted at the beginning of this sermon, I choose to risk my significance, to live so that that which came to me as seed goes to the next as blossom, and that which came to me as blossom goes on as fruit. I hope and pray that we might all choose to do likewise, and in so doing, we might begin enacting something like a mustard seed, something like the kingdom of heaven. May it be so. Amen.
Please rise again in body or spirit to join in singing, "Wonder Still the World Shall Witness." If you're following in a hymnal, which you can do, we have hymnals in the back corner, which are also always welcome to pick up, but we're not singing the tune that's in the hymnal, so you'd be, so you've been warned.
Wonder still the world shall witness, never known in days of old, never dreamed by ancient sages, howsoever free and bold. All our children shall inherit wondrous arts to us unknown, when the dawn of easy splendor over all the world has thrown. They shall rule with winged freedom, worlds of health and human good, worlds of commerce, worlds of science, all made one and understood. They shall know a world transfigured, which our eyes but dimly see. They shall make its towns and woodlands beautiful from sea to sea. For a spirit then shall move them, we but vaguely apprehend. It's magnificent and holy, making joy and labor friend. Then shall bloom in song and fragrance, harmony of thought and deed, fruits of peace and love and justice, where today we plant the seed.
Thank you. Please be seated.
Our Share the Plate beneficiary for the month of March is Ceasefire PA, whose mission is to end the epidemic of gun violence across the state and across our country through education, coalition building, and advocacy. 50% of all of our offerings in March will go to Ceasefire PA, and the other 50% will support Sunnyhill. If you'd like to make a gift via our online giving system, you can do so by going to sunnyhill.org and click on the button that says Online Giving, and then follow the instructions, or you can give by text at 412-324-3130. All text gifts will go to our Share the Plate offering. We'll be passing our offering baskets for cash and checks in just a moment. If you're writing a check, please put the Share the Plate in the memo. Thank you for your generosity. Please join me in saying the words for extinguishing our chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
May our faith sustain us, our hope inspire us, and our love surround us as we go our separate ways, knowing that we will gather again in this beloved community. Go in peace.